interviewing Joe Scala. Right. Could you tell us first of all, just so we've got a context for it,
Right.
where you were born and when?
I was born in 1922 in at number 10 Towerbridge Road, which was over Old Joe's fish and chip shop. And Old Joe was my grandfather.
Oh, right. Very good. And was your father in the same trade?
My father was also in that trade. I must tell you that my grandfather and grandmother came here from Italy at the turn of last century. And my father also came over early this century at the age of 10 to work. And he went up to Stamford in Lincolnshire and worked there. And then he eventually came back to London, met my mother, worked for my grandfather, met my mother, got married, went off to the 1914 war, came back. And that was it.
Right. So, what date did you say?
The 27th of July, 1922.
Right, so about 15 or 17 rather when the war broke out.
I was 17.
So what were you doing
Then
before the war broke out?
Before the war broke out, I was working in my father's shop, fish and chip shop, also called Old Joe's. That was round the corner in Old Kent Road.
Well, you were all called Joe in the family.
You were all Joe. Actually, my grandfather was Joe. I was named after him because I was the first grandchild. So I was named after him. I was named after my Italian grandfather, Giuseppe Augusto Antonio Loreto Mario Scala. That's me.
Oh, wow. Joe's easy.
With a Cockney accent.
Right. So you're working in a fish and chip shop
Yeah.
at the beginning of the war?
Yeah.
Do you remember when war broke out?
I do indeed, yeah. We were working in the shop and someone just came in and said, war's been declared on the radio. And that was it. That's how we knew that we were at war.
I suppose you were expecting it.
We were expecting it. It was in the air, and I know I had an aunt who kept saying to me, oh, there's going to be a war, there's going to be a war. And I said, no, there won't be a war, because he wouldn't warn someone if he was going to have a war. And Hitler keeps saying, if you don't let me do this, I'll do that. But he wouldn't be warning us, he'd just strike. But I was wrong. So was Mr. Chamberlain.
Yeah, right. So what was the first impact of it upon you?
Well, I think we were all very sad, because only a short while before that Mr. Chamberlain came back and said there wasn't going to be a war. And everyone was very happy and buoyant. And then suddenly there was a war. And war in the past has had tragedies for people. My old grandmother, my maternal grandmother, her first son, that was born when she came to this country, joined the Territorial Army, and he went off and he didn't come back. He was killed in action in Belgium in 1914. And my old granny, the rest of her life, wore black. So, she was praying for everyone every morning, every day, every evening, every afternoon. My granny was always praying for somebody's soul, and made her very sad, made me sad.
So were you called up?
I volunteered, actually, not because I'm heroic. I volunteered because I thought, if I don't volunteer, I'm going to get stuck in the army and have to march about. But if I volunteer, I'll join the Air Force, which was sounding very nice and glamorous. So I went along. Would you like to tell me how I volunteered? I went to a recruit. I don't know how I got the contact, but I went to this recruiting office in Euston, almost facing Euston Station. There was a drill hall, and I lined up there, and there were lots of others lined up there, and we eventually got into this big hall, and there was a long, long table with officers in Air Force uniform and wings sitting behind the table all along, and we had to go in one at a time and be interviewed. And it came my turn, and he said, what would you like to do? Why do you want to join the Air Force? I said, well, I've always wanted to join the Air Force, which was a fib. And then he said, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, to tell you the truth, I want to do something for the war, but I don't want to kill anyone, you see. So he said, well, cook. So I said, you never tasted my cooking. So he said, I'm 18 and a half, 19, remember. I'm talking to this man with all this gold braid on him. And he said, well, general duties. I said, what does that entail? He said, well, you sweep in the hairdryer. And I said, no, that's not, I want something exciting. And behind him on the wall, there was this beautiful, magnificent motorboat jumping out of the sea. And it was an RAF rescue launch. And I said, that's what I want to do. I've always wanted to do that. So he said, that's very difficult. It's a very, very small unit. He said, and it's only, a few scattered here and there along the coast, these boats. It's not like big aerodromes of them. You just live in a house and the boat's out in the sea. So I said, oh, well, that's what I want really to do. So he said, well, you seem very keen. He said, now I must tell you that in this section, the Marine Craft section of the RAF, there's only the sons of millionaires that have been brought up and lived on yachts all their lives and know everything about it, all these young fellas, or stevedores off the River Thames, the bargees, who have served 5 years apprentice and can handle boats. He said, I can see you are eager, so could you just tell me, are you in any way loosely connected with the sea? Just loosely. He said, I'm trying to help you, just loosely. So I said, yes, I am. So he said, what's that? And I didn't know what to answer. I said, well, my dad's got a fish and chip shop. So he took his cap off and mopped his forehead, looked at the officer next to him, and he said, what do you think? And this other officer said to him, he sounds like ideal material to me. So that's how I joined the Air Force.
Amazing. What did they put you into?
Oh, Air Sea Rescue. That's where I went in, Air Sea Rescue, yeah. And it was really marvellous, 4.5 years. I was on the sea, exciting, action all the time. And
where did you go to train for that?
I think we went to Cardington, the old hangars up there for the R101 airship, you remember?
Is that near Bedford?
Bedford. Big, enormous hangars, enormous. Are they really? Well, we went there, and we were there for about a week or a fortnight, I think, just getting uniforms and messing about in general and parading on parade and everything. And I was a bit, not a rebel, but I just didn't like really being told all the time to do things. And they said, now every time you go out on parade, you've got to have all your full uniform on and your knapsack on your back and your overcoat. And Air Vice Marshal, somebody's coming tomorrow to expect you all, but I want you all dressed nice and smart. So we all went out on the parade. And I'm a devil, I can't wear clothes. I can't wear clothes and ties and things like that. I'm here because I'm in the cold. So I went on parade with my hat on and my overcoat and rucksack and rifle, I think we had. And we all lined up, there must have been about 2,000 of us. And this Air Vice Marshal marched all down the line, and then he said, right, and then this sergeant in charge said, right, off with your packs, put your packs on the ground. Put your packs on the ground in front of you like you've been ordered to do, Put your rifle down, put it down. Right, overcoats off. I took my overcoat off. And there was about 2,000 men there wearing uniform, and I had a shirt on with no collar, and my sleeves rolled up. So I got told off for that, obviously. I think I had to do some duties that night or something, guard duty or something. Anyway, from there we went to Skegness. Skegness we did our training. It was a usual thing. All rookies, all wanted to prove someone, and all trying to be better than the others, And we were on parade there, we used to do these drills, and of course we all went through the experience of being the only man in step for the other 1,000 were all out of step. I had that on me once, and but it was nice, exciting and lovely, and it was always the thing that we're going to go away, So that was that. And from there, when I passed out, I was posted to Portsmouth, Gosport actually, in the harbour at Portsmouth. There was a very small air sea rescue base there with, I think we had about 4 high-speed launches. They could do 30 knots, which was very fast in those days. Jump out of water, 3 1,000 horsepower Rolls-Royce engines, high-octane petrol. And then we had about 4 pinnaces with lifting gear on, derricks.
What's a pinnace?
A pinnace is a sort of a boat with a big hold in the back and a crane on board. Only small, we're only 50 feet long.
How to spell it?
Pinnace, Pinnace.
Right.
And with that, we used to we used to go around. Sometimes we were on that, sometimes we were on the launches. You know, in the beginning, where they sorted out where you were going to go. And with the pinnaces, we used to go around Stokes Bay, which was between just along the coast from Portsmouth and between Portsmouth and the Isle of Wight. And we used to do torpedo recovery there. We used to have RAF pilots that were learning. They'd learned to fly. Then they had these old swordfish that did 100 miles an hour, these planes, with a torpedo tied up underneath them somehow. And they used to, honestly, it was like a bus coming along very slow. And there was a big old barge moored up right out in the Solent with a post on it. And they had to come in, it was a dummy torpedo. They had to come in and drop the torpedo, and it would leave a wake behind it, and you would see if it would have hit the boat. It was too low in the water to hit the boat, just make a trail, and that's how they trained. And then we had to go and pick that up afterwards, which was very hard. It was, I mean, they were great big things. God knows what they weighed, several tons, I think, a torpedo, I don't know. And big heavy things swinging like that in the sea, and it was swinging like that, and you had to get boat up onto rings and watch out you didn't get your head knocked off. And then winch it up out of the water, put it on board, and take it back where it belonged for someone else to have a go with.
So when did your training finish?
And then within a month or two, I mean, we'd done all that stuff at Skegness, marching and everything. Within a month or two, we were allotted a boat each. I was on a pinnace for a couple of months, then I went on air sea rescue launches, and we were out to sea with those.
And was it true what the bloke said, that it was full of people who'd been on
It
yachts?
was. We had some, but what a wonderful lot, really. We had a fella there, his son was Lord somebody, and the other one was Right Honourable somebody, and they grew walrus moustaches and everything, you know, like in keeping. One had a big ginger walrus moustache. Another one was an artist, he'd painted all his room. We commandeered this old pub in Gosport Harbour on a bit of beach there called Pretty's Hard, where they used to use for boat building and repairs during peacetime. And there was an old pub there called Moby House, really an old mock Tudor sort of pub. And it was absolutely deserted because when the tide came up, the cellar filled up with seawater, so it was deserted, and that was our billet. And they stuck us in there, and we, in emergencies, had to run downstairs, run along the little old wooden pier we had there on our boats and out to sea. And we learned our thing as we went along. We had lessons during the daytime. We learned semaphore and Morse code, and signalling with an Aulus lamp, and guns, machine guns. And when we went to sea at first on those boats, they were rescue boats for rescue purpose, whether they be German, Polish, Canadians, English, we fished them out. But because we were rescue boats, we had no guns, we had no arms at all. And then they started getting shot up, some of these boats, you know, quite a few got shot up all around the coast everywhere. They weren't not a beautiful target, a boat, 30 miles an hour, it's like standing still for an aeroplane. And then they let us take our rifles on board with us. If you can imagine this, that boat jumping out the water at 30 knots and anyway, and then from that we progressed, and they let us have a little Sten gun when they were invented, those little machine gun things. And
were they any use to you?
they were nice little guns, yeah. I mean, I fired off a few bursts in anger, but not with them. Because from them, then we went on to Lewis machine guns, little light machine guns that were on a tripod. And then by the end, we had gun turrets on there, same as an aeroplane. And then we had good guns in there, Vickers, and you know. Yeah.
Were you attacked while you were taking out
we were never attacked. We went out on rescues. We saw them come over several times, and it wasn't that they were kind to us. They had something else to do. They were on their way to bomb somewhere. But we did quite a few pickups. I didn't pick them up, but between us, the crew, we picked up 27 people. And we picked up Germans, Polish, Canadians, English, American. picked up one with no head.